people don't take web security very seriously. They're more interested in building an application and doing what they need to, and if security comes into the picture, it's usually as an afterthought. And I think a lot of the stuff that we do, we try to think about that from the very beginning and how it's going to impact the entire application. So we start with that in mind, start with security as a thought, and then think about how every interaction is going to impact not only the clients and the user's experience, but ultimately how is that going to play out in the rest of the world. So how, if someone's coming at the application maliciously or coming at the site with ill intent, what's going to actually happen? What ways or what vectors could they use to gain access? And what we want to do is try to block as much of that as possible, but also just be aware of best practices and be knowledgeable of ways that people do break into sites, and then take that into consideration as we build the applications. So really the biggest ones when we're thinking about security, the most common vectors are the database layer, interactions with the database. Whenever we're taking users' input and then putting that into a database and then reading that back out, that's a perfect place for someone to put in garbage, or more specifically malicious content, and then hope to feed that back out to a user. So what we want to do is we want to take care of that, both when it's going in, make sure that it's harder for people to put in things that are bad, but more importantly, when we're serving that to another user, we want to make sure that that data is cleaned up, that there's no chance for some malicious script to be executed on an unsuspecting person's browser just because they visited a site. The other thing we want to do is we want to be considerate and aware of people and how they use the internet. So a lot of times, for instance, most unsavvy web users will just enter the same password in almost every site they go to. They may have a slightly more secure password for their banking and less secure passwords that they use for Facebook and some of their social media accounts. But a lot of times people just use the same passwords over and over again. And so we want to take a lot of caution in how we handle and treat those passwords. We may have the best intentions as programmers and as a development company, and the site owners may have the best intentions, but that doesn't mean that everyone who could ever gain access to a database has the best intention. And that's why we use really strong hashing algorithms to hash passwords, so that even if somebody did get that data, it's really meaningless. Nobody's ever going to get one of our databases or get access to a list of users and their passwords and be able then to go log into their banking accounts, because those passwords are essentially gibberish, and we use very, very strong encryption and hashing algorithms to ensure that that data stays secure. And we think about that all the way through.